Apple was a very classic Silicon Valley startup in the sense that Steve Wozniak and my partner both worked for Hewlett-Packard. Matter of fact, Woz was still working there when we started Apple. And Hewlett-Packard was the genesis of not just the concept of starting your own company, but, and of course it was the primary role model in the Valley, but it was also the ethics or the ethical basis of how you wanted to build your company. A company that was based on values, not based on just making money. And HP had the HP way, and they had a list of their values. And the first one was, we need to make a profit or else we can't keep this company going. But after that, they got into how they wanted to treat individuals and conduct their corporate life. And it's very idealistic, in my opinion. So we were very much influenced by that. The second thing that made us very, very typical in a way was that we were building a product that we ourselves were the customer for. We were building something we wanted ourselves, just like Hewlett and Packard started building test equipment and equipment for engineers. Well, they were engineers, so they could, in essence, do the marketing. They could figure out what an engineer might want in a product as well as design it. We wanted a computer, and we knew exactly what we wanted in a computer, so we could do the marketing as well as the engineering of that product. This changed later as we started selling to people that were different than us, but certainly in the first several years of Apple, we were selling to people that were just like us. And a lot of Silicon Valley companies have started that way. In Silicon Valley, if you had to say what was the seminal bud, it was Stanford University, Fred Terman, encouraging Hewlett-Packard, the Varian brothers, to not go back east but to stay here. That was the germ. The second big growth phase and the real, modern-day shot in the arm was when William Shockley, the racist, returned home to his hometown of Palo Alto to start a semiconductor company. He was one of the three co-discoverers of the transistor at Bell Labs. And he returned home to Palo Alto and he started Shockley Semiconductor, and he brought with him about a half a dozen of the brightest young people in the country on this. And in a way, it was very lucky that he turned out to be a terrible manager and businessman, and several of these people defected, headed by Bob Noyce, who raised money from a big company out east called Fairchild Camera and Instrument to start Fairchild Semiconductor. And the rest is history. Fairchild was, the second seminal company in the Valley after Hewlett-Packard, and really was the launching pad for every semiconductor company in the whole semiconductor industry, which built the Valley. So it was, it's an incredible place. When you look back at the end of the century, I'm sure that people will feel of the 10 greatest inventions and discoveries of the century, 5 of them happened within 10 miles of here, 20 miles of here. Genetic engineering, the integrated circuit, the microprocessor, the personal computer. It's just amazing what this Valley has done. There is an entrepreneurial risk culture in the Valley that is as important to, it is as key of a reason why Silicon Valley exists as any other reason. I mean, the primary reasons are the entrepreneurial risk culture, of which role models are a very big part. Second is the universities, Stanford and Berkeley. There wouldn't be a Silicon Valley if there weren't Stanford and Berkeley constantly bringing in human capital, which decides to stay here because it's so nice. And third, certainly for the number of companies that start, is the financial infrastructure as well. And then fourth is the beehive effect. You've got a lot of extraordinarily talented people, and the beehive effect says that it's a lot more efficient to have that talent and all those companies together. And let me give you an example. When you want to start a company, you need to hire some experienced people. You just can't hire people out of school most of the time. So you have to hire some experienced talent. Well, you're going to ask somebody to leave a job, maybe they have a family, and come to your place to work. Well, if your company's in Montana and they move their family and your company fails, there's not another company in Montana that they can go to work for, most likely. So you're going to have to move again. As where if all you have to do is convince them to turn left instead of right down the road to go to work in the morning, but they keep their same house, their kids don't have to change school, etc. And if your company fails, well, they just go get a job another week at some other company. You're going to have a much higher probability of recruiting them. And so that's the beehive effect. And those four things together, I think, are why Silicon Valley is today, what it is. The entrepreneurial entrepreneurial risk culture has a lot to do with role models, starting off with Hewlett and Packard, and models of engineers that started companies, models of marketing people that started companies, and even some spectacular failures. Some of the failures are as widely discussed as the successes. And even even the failures, people are admired for trying. And I think they pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and go get a job. Maybe they don't own the company, maybe they're not a founder of the next company, but they've got a really good job, and there's no real chance that they'll end up destitute.